So warm welcome everybody online as well as here at our office, and let's enjoy the session, and let everybody do introduce themselves separately.
Great. Thank you, Sala, and thank you, DLA Piper, for once again hosting the event together with us. So my name is Nina, and I'm the co-founder of the Nordic Business Ethics Initiative. Anna, my partner in crime, is sending lots of love and hello to everyone. Um, and I think this is a very special theme today for us, for me and Anna, because we established the Nordic Business Ethics Initiative in 2019. And our aim and our mission was to create a place and a platform for the legal officers, ethics and compliance officers, sustainability people, auditors, whoever work with these matters that relates to responsible business. We wanted to create a platform where we can share, maybe learn from each other and connect and maybe become a little bit better versions of ourselves. And personally, during these years, I have learned so much around different topics, but I think this will be one of those top themes because we established Ethics Talk Live to bring in people who we can learn from, to have conversations, to have talks, and now the talk is about conversations and discussion and decision making. So really happy to host, especially in today's world when we are facing all this situation in the world where we have the politics, where we have the polarization, and it's very difficult to sometimes understand the different perspectives. So I hope this event today will bring us something we can use all to learn maybe more about ourselves, on how we make decisions, how we look at the world, how we interact, and how we should maybe even become better in having conversations and understanding other perspectives and also our own biases. But yes, I'm happy that I will be today in the role of moderator with these three excellent guests who will provide the platform today for the discussions. First, I would like to introduce Satu Arneli from DLA Piper. So Satu is a lawyer who comes with 20 years of experience in working with competition, compliance, and regulatory matters, and also you have experience in working in Finland, but also in abroad. Right next to Satu, we have Mikaela Ahlberg. I think Mikaela doesn't need, for the ethics and compliance professional, much of an introduction. You've been, as I've always said, the queen of ethics and compliance here in the Nordics, because you have really been those pioneers working in many different companies, both as a lawyer but as ethics and compliance professionals. And I think these days you are dedicating your time in having better conversations. And then, last but not least, we have Ville Ojanen here. We wanted to also bring, as an addition to the lawyer perspectives, psychologist who actually comes from a very different background, but you understand the human mind and the behavior, and we will bring a lot of understanding for us on why we humans are like we are, and how we can maybe become better in understanding human mind, and how we can influence and how we can understand each other better. But yeah, I will first, I guess, throw the ball to you, Ville, because I think that when we think about the corporate ethics and compliance and the organizational systems, so we have been very good in building their systems like approval policies, governance structures, different type of forums where we actually try to gather, try to avoid one person making making these decisions and avoiding unnecessary risk. And at the same time, we are thinking that we are actually very rational people, and I think all of us would agree that I'm very good in making decisions. I have good judgment, and I'm a very rational person. But maybe we can debunk this myth of being rational persons, right?
Yeah, humans are more complicated than that. And as far as I can understand law, practicing law and law in general as a kind of a thing in human systems is an attempt to control human behavior with regulations and norms and controls and checks and balances and whatnot, consequences. But humans don't apply to that because our core nature is different. We are not mechanistic process animals. We are emotional, intuitive, collective, hive mammals that live to build bonds and relations. And depending on the quality of our relations, first of all to ourselves, how do you relate to yourself in your inner world, that kind of reflects out to the way you relate to other people and eventually to the world. And what drives human behavior is caring and empathy, because the good quality relations we have to in the world affect us in that way that we start caring about those things. And when we do care about things, that's when the kind of the best of humans come out. And as far as we don't care, it's impossible to control our behavior based on rules and norms and regulations. But it's of course very important. We need to have those in place. But to go kind of the last mile, we just thought that we need to be much better. So in order to be much better humans, we need to turn towards what we really are. And behavioral sciences have a lot to give there, because the view of humans have changed during the past 10, 20 years into kind of appreciating humans as these types of relational, caring, responsible mammals that manifest those behaviors when certain things are present in our environment.
Wow, that was beautiful. I think we should have more, more of Villes in the office, right? So, Mikaela, what are your thoughts on that? I think we need to pass the mic to Mikaela. And actually, before you move on, I just forgot to mention that everyone here is allowed to join the conversation. So whenever you have a question or a thought, feel free to shout it out, and also people online put it on the chat and we'll try to take it.
So I'm not so used to this type of mic, so I hope this works. It resonates with me. I have been working with law and with ethics and compliance for the past 40 years. I should be retired and sitting on the French Riviera drinking rosé wine. But I have realized that I have more to do, because I think we need to, as ethics and compliance professionals, we need to work with the ethics part more. And I think it's the ethics part that will influence the culture. And the culture is really what we're after in the end. And I know that also the regulator, paradoxically, is asking today, what are you doing for the culture? Are you working with the culture? People understand that we are trying to work with compliance, understanding the rules and regulations, but these different types of wrongdoings and wrong decisions and bad judgments, they don't really normally come from not understanding the law. It comes from other factors that influences us and that are part of our human fabric and that we don't understand, and we don't have the tools to improve that lack of knowledge and that lack of understanding of ourselves and of others. So what I have started to say is that I believe that ethics is not an answer, because as lawyers we are so trained and conditioned to have answers on everything people ask us. What can we do? What can we not do? So for me, ethics is not an answer. For me, ethics is a conversation. To have these important and difficult conversations and to invite people to these conversations. But instead we are limiting the conversations. We are excluding people. We are excluding opinions where we feel discomfort. We live in our little bubbles where we think everything is fine when we are on the executive levels, And so there are so many aspects that we need to improve in order to improve the conversations that we must have in order to make better decisions and better judgment calls. So for me, it's really, we have a lot to do. We need to improve quite a lot from the baseline, which is understanding the law.
That was beautiful as well. Ethics is not an answer. It's a conversation, and I want to bring this to you, Satu Anneli. So many people would like to have the answer by seeking a legal advice, and I think the tougher the question becomes, the more we want to have the legal advice that will maybe give us a solution that we don't have to think ourselves. So what is maybe a typical misperception that has to do with the legal advice, what is your take on this discussion we've had so far?
Firstly, well, we have so many other speakers here that I'm a bit overwhelmed by their knowledge and views, so it's an absolute privilege to be here. Misconceptions of legal advice, I think there are quite a few of them, to be honest. Of course, clients seek from us exact answers, solutions for their problems, and that's of course what we strive to do and deliver. But it's not always just the legal answer what we're giving, or just we need to think of also other aspects than just this particular problem that has been presented to us. For instance, how does it affect for the organization in wider sense? How does this deal, for instance, affects this company's next deals? If we deal with authority certain way in this case, what about the next case? So you do need to think sort of a wider scheme than only these specific legal questions, for which, of course, still the client wants you to have an answer, and a clear answer, and hopefully short as well, and to the point, and so on and so on. But I think as lawyers, we tend to quite often think it sort of narrowly, it's little this intellectual question that has been presented to us. But I think we need to at least try to think a bit wider, see more solutions, alternatives, how we can interpret, but also then filter out sometimes when the client or even in in-house position, somebody might want you to just rubber stamp something, present their own view, and just wanting confirmation that it is like that. Well, it's not always like that, and that's also what you need to deal with and consider.
Thanks for sharing that. So, Mika, what's your take on the legal advice?
Well, as a lawyer, I have to say that the law is important. I believe in regulations. I don't think it is possible to have a society without regulations. And I think that the discussion if we need to regulate AI is very naive and strange, because of course we need to regulate AI. Otherwise we will go the same way as we did with social networking online. But I think that it is important when you're a lawyer to understand that maybe sometimes the law is not enough to provide support for the person who's going to make the decision ultimately. And I know that there is a big pressure from people to kind of just give me your legal opinion and be done with it. That's as inexpensively, as fast as possible. But giving the client that might actually not lead the client where he or she wants to be led. So I think you need to broaden it up. And that's where, because I know that this is very uncomfortable for a lawyer, and that's why I think it's so important where you understand that I don't have to be the ethical police and tell the person what is ethical or not. It's the conversation, it's the different questions I need to ask instead of providing an answer. The law I can tell you about, but the rest you have to figure it out yourself, and I can help you with questions. Not very popular all the time, though.
Yeah, and that leads to, you mentioned, Mikaela, the word being uncomfortable or having delivering uncomfortable message. So I think that lawyers, ethics and compliance professionals, we know that we are many times in a role of delivering that message, which is not the most popular one. So Villa, I want to bring this back to you. How can we, because me and Anna, we believe that having uncomfortable conversations and situations, that is the key. Without this, we don't evolve. But so we should become better in being uncomfortable. So how can we do that?
Well, having worked with human systems for over 20 years as a psychologist, so the main challenge for me was to try and understand what are people trying to do when they are trying to guide and govern human behavior based on technological or economical or legal or governing types of approaches. And it's very important, you need to do that. But for a psychologist, as a business psychologist, it's a typical situation to be in a boardroom with people who have knowledge about these ways of working with human systems and being like, what? You really think you can pull it out with these practices? And it took really long for me to understand and find a kind of metaphor for that. And then I came to think about it. Your clients need an exact answer and they require you to come with an exact answer. It's like wishing to have a very, very nice and beautiful hat when your hair is a mess. And what we need to do with the human systems, they working with individuals as a coach and psychologist, that's the same situation. Individuals, we want our life to be in order, to have the nice hat. But at the same time, I can see that your hair is a mess. So maybe we should do something first with your hair. And working with the hair of human systems is combing the hair, kind of aligning the energies, aligning the people, aligning people's emotions, aligning people's attachments, aligning people's ideas and thinking about things. And when you manage to align human system for collective animal like human, when we find ourselves in an aligned psychosocial environment, we come together and we start to care about each other. We start to care about myself, the other people, the world around us, and that kind of brings out what we call ethical behavior. That's our core nature. But we first need to do the combing, the kind of the aligning.
And with this humility, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, we all like to look nice. So the question how to do the combing, it's basically conversations. It's reflective practices. When an individual comes to my practice, my office, that's what they do. When they tell about their life and their emotions and their challenges at work and how difficult leadership is, and that's what they do. They comb their hair, they kind of comb their inner energies to be aligned with themselves. And then it's reflection, it's reflective practice. That's what human mind can do. We can turn our attention inwards and reflect on what is here right now. What is it when I'm present in my human system? What comes out? What is true for me? And what works and what doesn't work? And this aligning work is done on all levels of human systems. And when we go to social levels, when we go to corporate levels or national level, it's the same thing. It's shared reflection. It's about having a conversation, a dialogue on what is going on and what is it that people really feel and think and experience? What is it that drives humans? And it doesn't come out with a solution. Reflection doesn't aim at an action point. And that's really difficult for people because we always need to do something. But reflection is not about doing anything. It doesn't lead to anything. But what it leads to, it leads you to look good and have your hair aligned with the nice hat. So it's shared reflection is the answer to your question.
Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting that. I would like to ask everyone to think, who has the time to do this? But yeah, it's very important to escalate some time to dedicate some time for this reflection. But taking this back to you, Satu and Elisa, talking about bringing uncomfortable news to different audiences, to the boardroom that was mentioned as well. So what are your key takeaways? How can we become better in delivering difficult information?
Well, now I think Ville just delivered the answer. Whenever we will be facing the difficult situation, we just think that the people in the boardroom or in the other room or on the other side of the teams have a bad hair day. And at least we can't. But on the top of that, I think it's you need to sort of keep calm yourself. Think that this is a professional question. This is, it's you have your points of views to present. You've prepared for that, and even the news is bad. It is some kind of news. It leads to something, rather than being maybe stuck in a situation or something like that. But of course, from us, lawyers, the answer just simply is not enough. If we say that, this is the answer, bad answer, we didn't want that. So you do need to be prepared to, explain the reasoning, why it is like that, and be seeking alternatives. What next? How this can be resolved, etc. as well, and not only be the person who delivers the bad news to the room, but maybe there is some sort of marginal silver lining that can be found from that situation and how to proceed, how to get on with it. So you just need to be prepared, think a bit ahead, and nobody in that room is that scary, and they have bad hairs anyway, so you can do it.
Yeah, and actually how difficult can being present and alive be in this environment where we are. You guys make it sound so easy, but we all know how the reality is. And these situations might be very difficult when we sit here in Finland all with the same type of a bad hair. But let's go to an international context. Satu and Mikaela, you both worked in, and Ville also, in international companies with many different cultural differences and perspectives. So I would like to get your views on how we can really invite more voices into these conversations to understand better people around us, especially those ones maybe we don't agree with or we don't understand. Mikaela, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'm going to deviate a little bit because I was thinking of something. Two of our favorite researchers, Megan Rice and John Higgins, they are doing a lot of research now on what they call spaciousness. Mm-hmm. They have kind of moved from speaking up to speaking out to advocacy and activism to conversations, and now they are like, okay, they are at the point where they are investigating and doing research on how do we create space in this world that we live in today, where we sit in Teams meetings from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the afternoon. How do we create space and to invite people? Mm-hmm. Because if we don't have space to listen, there's no point of taking the next step. So I think that that's really important that we take part of that, these findings there on how to create better space for ourselves. But, and I think that we should not under-evaluate how difficult it can be to be the one who has to ask the difficult questions, who has to bring these difficult information and difficult questions to the table all the time. I have experienced that myself when I was part of a leadership team where they thought that I was disloyal, difficult to work with, not a team player, because I didn't, agree, and I was not part of the what we love so much in Sweden, the consensus. So it's not very easy. It's hard, but the more we practice the more we do that work and give space for it, the better we become. And the less we will take this friction personally and let it be part of the process, kind of how we work. And I think that it's not going to come because I put up a sign, have better conversations. It's going to come if we do these exercises and take the time to really be more present and invite people into conversations.
That's it. And thanks for bringing up the spaciousness. And to everyone, this is a great, tip to investigate further. So Megan Wright and John Higgins, they've done an amazing job on conceptualizing this spaciousness. But really, when Mikaela was talking about the spaciousness, what's your take on that? And for a human being, do we have time to be in a spacious mode in today's world?
Yeah, time is a limiting factor,
Yeah.
definitely. And time and stress puts our systems in a sympathetic activation mode, which is contrary to the parasympathetic, which allows us to connect with ourselves and others. So that's a kind of a basic kind of physiological barrier for humans to be better. And when we go into a bit of a strange world, when we take seriously these things that we have brought out, because we go from a world of objective processes and rules and regulations and the world of things that you can manage into the world of human systems, which is a strange world from coming from that world. And it opens up a whole different approach and view on human systems, the systemic interactions between different levels, and how emotions and the lifespan of individual kind of human growth, adult growth, plays into leadership, and the role of leadership in human systems as a kind of crucial kind of social magnet on creating these spaces, and how leadership is developed, and what kind of makes a good leader in terms of personal development and growth, and how that is linked to childhood and early interaction and your attachment models, and all these things come out, and we are not very used in corporate and business world in talking about human language, in talking about people, because we want to talk about objective things that we can manage. But if we take this seriously, then this world opens up. And then it becomes really interesting question. So what is required, take Finland, to kind of create impact into the human system, so that we take the importance of Homo sapiens early 2 years very seriously. We start on focusing on infants and newborn babies and take them as sacred energies in human systems. We don't do that. Have you heard any politicians who talk about the importance of babies? Instead they talk about money.
They want men.
Yeah, but this is reality. This is reality, and and then how the reflective abilities of adults in comparison to the need for having good quality conversations is really on a low level, because we don't teach people to reflect. And and also in general, kind of the view on individual lifespan. How do you grow up? And how many people actually grow up? And what is required to grow up? And we cannot create these so-called adaptive spaces. Mary Ulbien, leadership guru, researcher, professor, has this concept of adaptive space. Thank you. And she calls, she's talking about the human systems oscillating from knowing to not knowing, kind of implementation, from innovation to implementation. And that happens on the individual level, it happens on organizational level, and that's an ongoing process, and this is the oscillation. And when the pendulum turns, it goes through so-called adaptive space, where the human system opens up to plastic changes, to kind of being able to adapt to new conditions. And in order to be able to go to an adaptive space, when you go to a psychologist, it requires rapport and psychological safety for your individual system to go into an adaptive space, so you will find a new adaptation in your life. For organizational life, for teams, for a company, it requires psychological safety, trust, appreciation. It requires leadership. It requires individuals who are both warm and strong. Very often leaders are only strong, and it's actually a very, very rare case for a leader to be both, because it's psychologically very difficult, and it requires a lot of adults growing up to be able to be both warm and strong. So, I don't know if I answered anything.
Wow, I think, yeah. I think you gave so much to think about, and I think a lot of thoughts I can, sense that is going around in this room and also online. But so let's take it back to the, life of a lawyer. And so, Sargon, you work a lot with the competition law, and obviously this is an area where we have different stakeholders, different perspectives. We would, I guess, need a lot of adaptive thinking and reflection and understanding different perspectives. So, what's your take on this whole conversation around being adaptive and reflective, and in the context where you actually work?
Well, thanks for sharing that. The brain is basically just buzzing around and reflecting on some level, not quite adult level yet. But I think that the same goes, you have different stakeholders, regardless of the area of law, what you do. In my specialty, of course, we do a lot directly with the clients, and then there is another party, for instance, in business transaction. They have different views, they have different agendas. Their councils have different views and agendas on the top of that, because they want to please their clients. And then we might be dealing with authorities who are absolutely different agenda. But then again, we try to aim for the same goal. Let's say, try to get some transaction approved by the competition authority. So it takes a lot of communication, a lot of back and forth reflecting, maybe not as deep dive as what you mentioned, but there you need to, in order to get that common goal, you need to put whole loads of pieces together, and then you need to give away a little bit, and you gain something, you get something, and then you kind of, through cooperation between all parties, you try to reach where you're heading to. I don't think you can go sort of head fast, storming on with your own opinions. Maybe some other areas of law that is possible, and you just want to win, and that's it. But what I do mainly, it is you do need to be sort of dealing with many different directions all the time. And I think they're sort of trying to understand, trying to keep the sort of friendly professionalism is very important rather than going fight your fight. I don't think that really leads very far, and I'm sure Villa would have a really nice, how this works in psychology, how human mind works with that. But I think that's kind of the friendly professionalism is sort of way forward of dealing with very diverging interests, yet still gaining what you are aiming for.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Do we have any questions from the audience? We do? So I'm delivering the mic.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from online asking how to motivate people to ask questions and how to encourage them.
Who wants to take this?
So I'm still in my adaptive phase here, but you mentioned psychological safety. So it works pretty well with this question here, because I think it's important to remember for us in this room that the concept of being safe in this adaptive space is not only important because we want to encourage right doing and being legal and lawyerly and doing the right thing. We also want to encourage creativity, innovation, and other sorts of good aspects of why we employ people in the first place. And if we don't have this psychological safety in this adaptive phase, nothing will actually happen in the company. We think in the executive team that things are happening because we have decided a lot of things, but nothing really happens because people are not safe. So and that's kind of, for me, what I have realized after all this working in executive teams. So spending more time in the organization, not fixating on the top, because to be honest, those are the most difficult people to work with. I leave that to Vilda, because they have very strong incentives of keeping the structure of governance as it is today. Because it's more simple to think about, okay, we decide this and it happens. So it's better than to spend more time working out in the organizations. And even regulators across the world have realized this. So now when we talk about tone from the top, it's more like tone from above, which means any of the leaders all the way down, and tone from within, which is your own conversation with yourself. Because before we can have a reasonable conversation and ask the difficult questions and be courageous, we need to have this little internal conversation. What do I think? Where am I? Who am I? What do I stand for? Where are my limits? Where will I not cross? So this concept, again, coming back to the question, because I know Sanna wants me to answer the question, is we have to work at all levels in the company to create this environment where people are kind, where people listen, where there's space, where people are safe, and where we are not punished because we say stupid things or uncomfortable things, or where we encourage them. And this sounds like, oh, this would never happen anywhere. But there are companies that are better in doing this because they have leaders who think that this is productive, mostly for innovation and creativity purposes. Long answer, but maybe below the 3-minute limit.
Just right. Any reflection from Stefan and Vilda? Or Mikaela? I assume Mikaela is experiencing here lots of psychological safety to be open about this very good reflection.
Yes. I think you mentioned a friendly professionalism. Yeah, I think that's a very good way of phrasing on a kind of an everyday behavioral level on how we should be. We should be friendly professionals. We should have warmth and strength. And talking about psychological safety and talking about the psychological view on world is often leaning very heavily on these kind of soft aspects, which is of course what needs to be emphasized because we are caring creatures. But let's not forget the strength, because we operate in an environment that is competitive, and we operate in a market economy where you need to, push others out of the game in order to win. So you need to have this balance of strength and warmth, and it's challenging and it's difficult. And how to invite and create opportunities for people, how to encourage people to have conversations and reflect. It's much about culture, conversation, having the culture of conversation, having leading by example. We need more individuals who can do it, and it's a rare breed, to tell you the truth. It really is. We have a big competence gap in leadership, because this is not something that people are used to. This is not how businesses were led and managed to be successful. They were primarily led by strength, being competitive and tough and quick and hard. And now we are entering into a world where we need to be both warm and strong. And as I told before, it's not an easy thing for an individual to achieve that type of behavior. It takes a long time. Our brains mature up to our 40s.
And then it's done.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and that's so true. And I think the word like a winning was mentioned many times. So I think it's a great question for all of us to think and ask what is really winning. And because if I'm only thinking I'm strong and the winning is about the euros or being productive or whatsoever, meeting my KPIs, could the winning be maybe something more on how I win for getting better results on a longer term and winning, understanding people and creating the culture where people feel like I'm being heard and I'm part of the decision making and so on. But yes, so we promised to give some practical guidance on how to become better in making decisions, in having the conversations, also in this multinational environment. So any thoughts from any of you? How can we become better?
Well then, that's not easy question, I must say. But I think if we try to become better, that is already, I think, great realization. If we do any steps, try to improve how we approach people, how we deliver our message, how we formulate our answers, and how we meet people, how we take into considerations, opposite views, and how we behave in those situations. So not immediately getting this human attack when somebody gives you something negative, but try to maybe try to add that one or two briefs before you react. I think all these even mini steps will lead us towards something better. It will be fantastic to be able to do this, and this, and then that's done. But I don't think we are that simple. We humans, and solutions are not that simple. But many steps are already big steps when you try to do them consistently.
Yeah, definitely. Mika, I would have to.
So, don't know if you remember, Paula. But in Getinge, we try to incentivize higher leadership to have conversations with people who work several steps down in the hierarchy. And they found that very intimidating, uncomfortable and intimidating. And they were obstructing a lot. They didn't have the time, it was all sorts of excuses. And I realized after a while that it's not snobbery or power, it's uncertainty. They are not used to speaking to people who are not part of the normal group. So I think that's really kind of easy advice. Make an effort to start conversations and ask questions, invite people who are not part of your usual group of suspects. But enlarge, make that effort. And I know it is uncomfortable, but try to rise above the discomfort and do it anyway. Have a coffee and Swedish kanelbullar with the people in the factory. And then, they're like, oh, but I visit the factory. But not with the red carpet rolled out and you parading back and forth, but really making a contact with people. And so that's easy, but you need to make some time to do it. Go outside of your comfort zone a little bit and practice that. Good leaders have practiced this to a finesse. They can speak to anybody and get a report. But it takes some practice. So that's one type of advice.
Yeah, that's very, very practical. But Ville, what do you think about this advice?
I think it's an excellent one. And it's an outcome of a certain type of practice, which starts from what you also earlier mentioned, starting from your own connection to yourself, kind of starting from the present moment, so to speak. It's really important to be able to be here and now and really practice it, to be with your own system and to learn about it and reflect on how your system is working and how do you comb your own hair first. And only when you have combed your hair, you are ready, so to speak, to approach everyone and create this alignment with other people and help other people also to comb their hairs. And when a lot of people do this together, then we create this alignment in a human system, and then we come together and there's mutual bonding and we start caring about similar things and we take responsibility, and then the best out of humans come out. So it is a systemic thing, and we need to think about all the levels of the system at the same time, starting from the individual and your own connection with yourself, leading up to the way the organization works and how the compliance turns out.
Thank you. Susanne, we have a question. Do we need the mic? Yeah, let me. Thank you.
There's a compliance and ethics academic, Guido Palazzo, who I'm sure you've met, and I remember hearing him speak at an event in Stockholm many years ago that I think, Gary, you were probably organising. He talks a lot about framing and ethical blindness. Framing being the idea that if you look at something through a very narrow perspective, you don't take into account all the factors that are actually necessary to make a good decision, particularly if you're particularly focused on profits. You may ignore the ethical dimensions of a decision. So in this discussion about combing the hair and sort of getting everybody to align, then is there a danger that leaders may end up aligning people just along the same route? How can we make sure that everybody does not end up with straight hair, and that there is room for people to have curly hair and, you know, all different colours of hair, in order to, you know, maintain the breadth of that vision.
I love this hair thing. You can.
Yeah, very, very important. Good question. I think that shared reflection in psychologically safe adaptive space is about inviting different points of views. That's what it is, kind of by definition. So for a leader, that means that's also one of the unconscious reasons for leaders not to do that, because it's a threat. Because creating a psychologically safe adaptive space allows people to voice their opinions. And it's like a Pandora's box, and leaders are afraid of that. Because what do I do with it? You know, they don't comply anymore. They don't go with the process. They have a mind of their own. And of course, this is the age-old dilemma, of leadership. Sometimes you just need to order people to go towards the machine gun fire and just tell them that you just do it. And that's kind of the way many leaders still feel that what the role of a leader is, to really do what you explained, align people's hair so that everybody have a straight hair. But now when we enter a world which is more complicated and dynamic, and we have these global big ethical problems, and it's really a question about stepping up for humans. We need to be better. So we need to go into psychologically safe adaptive spaces and have leaders who have capabilities and tolerance and courage to go there and kind of bring people there. And it's not an easy job, but absolutely doable.
Wow, I really admire Ville, your way of putting things into words.
Thank you.
Yeah, but let's give the mic to Mikael. I would like to hear just one last reflections on the conversation and perhaps one key takeaway for the audience to bring home.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's excellent, because I think it's important to think about what psychological safety is not. Psychological safety is not comfortable. Psychological safety is not job security. Psychological safety is not everybody having the same views. So psychological safety is quite a few things that it is not. It can be very uncomfortable. It can be very difficult. It can be very, a lot of friction and pain almost. But it is absolutely necessary to have this type of environment where many voices can be heard, many opinions can be heard, where we can have these conversations, and where we are not afraid of the uncomfortable things. And I was listening yesterday to somebody who is a hell of a lot smarter than I am, a French author whose name is Eduardo Luis. He has written several books, not all of them are translated, and he was talking about his last book, and he said, I hated my brother. I thought he was a despicable person. I was happy when he died. I really, really hated him. But that does not relieve me from the responsibility of understanding him. Because if we cannot go there, society will never be able to heal itself, because we will have different opinions, and we will come from different perspectives, and we will have different histories and biases and all sorts of things that we carry with us. But we need to be able to go there. And today, I think it's more important than ever that we are capable of doing that.
Wow, you have the gift as well, Miguel. So, your reflection, last words, what would you like to say after wrapping up this conversation?
I think it's time to start growing. Yes, I think we can all take a whole loads home from this, but would use it this understanding. It is really important and taking into consideration of other people's views, but that made me also think at the same time how difficult it is at these times when there are so different views, let's say social media and political views that are really not at all what you would support yourself, or policies that are, policies have been made and now they've been repealed in some big countries, etc., etc., etc. So whilst it is all important and we are trying to do that, it will be still very difficult for us. Even we would try to do that, continuous growing and understanding, but it will be sort of inner battle for us also when we try to observe and understand all these so very different views that are out and about there, and you could read from afternoon papers and stuff like that. It's different task ahead of us, but I guess that's where we all grow.
Wow, that was a very nice reflection. Thank you for sharing that. And really, I'll give the final words for you. You've been having this conversation with two lawyers, and most of us in the audience are lawyers. So how would you reflect this conversation and maybe give something to think back?
I was thinking about this concept of holding space. We were talking about space and this ability to hold the space. So you have the role here of holding the space. And that's a really important key function that we humans do for others to enable a shared reflection and to kind of create a type of climate that allows us to be reflective and share our ideas. So thank you.
Thank you, all of you. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and I'm sure that everyone here has learned something to take home with. So everyone, thank you for joining us here physically in Helsinki and everyone online. So I hope you had a beautiful session. I hope to see you next time.